I'm setting it up right now. Hey peeps, I'm turning this on. I think it should be live and good to go, my friend. So I got my armpits like in your live video feed down here as I'm reaching up here. Love it. So my dearest friend and brother Brian asked me to be on his new show. Love this guy. So here, look, I'll show you. Brian, like so we're doing his show. That's right. And so that we're making it accessible now for everyone, because this is how we love to roll. I love this ability here. The only time I've used live is when I've thrown it on when I've done shows. So Brian and I are going to get into it. Hopefully you can hear Brian from the computer with what he asked me. Yeah, see? Already. Hi, beauties!
So now we're going live on the other one.
There we go.
Lori? What's up, Tina? All right, so.
Awesome, let's do this.
Welcome. We're live on Facebook. So, hey, so here's what's going on my neck of the woods. If you choose to get onto this screen, just make sure you go to Think Great Lose Weight. That's where we're broadcasting out from. This is my personal page.
Right now it's broadcasting from there. Think Great Lose Weight. Think Great Lose Weight.
Yeah, Think Great. Yep.
Okay, go to that page, and that's where Brian's also broadcasting live on Be Live TV. So whether you catch me here or, yes, awesome. Perfect. Brian, I love you. I pull up today and I'm like, oh, your hair's different. You look so cute.
It's been seem like it's been so long.
Yeah, I know.
So the purpose of today is really no purpose other than to have my amazing friend on here and to really share her genius with my audience and the people that know, love, and trust my information. Like, this is one of my amazing friends. She is super awesome. She is super connected and does some really amazing things. And I'm just honored to be able to share her with y'all today, so you can ask questions that may come on. And like I said, there's nothing off limits. We'll talk about whatever's going to come up. We specifically said there is no agenda other than to provide a lot of value and really just be present in the moment and see what really comes through, because that's where we both operate best.
Yes.
So with that in mind, I have my friend here, Miss Marci Lockin. For those of you that are on here, you can see on this one.
I'm like, I hope they can hear you on the live, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yep. So tell everybody, just give us an idea of your story. Like, how did you get where you're at right now?
Oh my God, dude, really? You know, my story is like so big and long. People are like, tell us your story. It's like, well, we can do this for a while. Right, okay, so I'll give you a little bit. I was raised in Utah on a farm, basically raised in very much poverty programming, so that, you know, we had to grow our own food to survive. You know, couldn't imagine my parents even giving me $1 because it was like, how are you gonna go earn it? By 6 years old, I had, you know, 3 jobs trying to just make money for clothes and for whatever I needed for, you know, to do anything. And had all sorts of fun sicknesses and diseases growing up, rape attempts, kidnappers, stalkers, kind of you name it. So went through quite the life story of lots of different traumas. In fact, I always say the reason I can call it everyone's bullshit is because I was the bullshitter on why I created those things and had those things in my life. So now, I mean, Brian, when did we meet? Even a couple years ago, right? We've been really good friends. So
yeah, I think it's been like 4 right now, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, I went through, experienced a cheating husband. I was, you know, again, raised Mormon LDS, and then experienced a cheating husband and got divorced. My kids were less than 1 and 4 years old, and I became a waitress making $2 an hour with like $10 to my name. And how do I get to, you know, be a single mom and survive and take care of them? And I really started to go deeper and deeper into the internal journey that I had already, you know, was really pulled to, that allowed me within 6 years to, you know, have a multi-million-dollar enterprise and, you know, now be coaching people up to even $1 million level to work with me personally, have a documentary coming out of my life, you know, my book's about to launch, have programs being launched through some of the biggest names in the world that's about to come out worldwide with online programs, etc. So an entirely different life experience for sure.
You, my lady, have been super busy since last summer.
You're like, I didn't even know all those things happened, Marci. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen you, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Consistently moving, which is great. I love it. It always challenges me to be the best version of myself, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, what are you most passionate about right now? Like, where do you get your juice at?
Wow. Well, recently, just the last 2 months, I really felt, so the last year, I'll drop back just a little bit, probably about a year and a half ago, I had some deep inspiration that was hitting me just also one day. It was like, it's time to serve the masses. That's what I heard. And so I go, oh, interesting. What would that look like? And how would I get to do that? And started to have this draw and this inspiration to how I got to serve the masses with this understanding of how to integrate this way of beingness into our lives, that we're not doing this surface self-empowerment bullshit game anymore, where we're like very much like, oh, I'm going to speak the words and I'm going to think the thought, but we're so disconnected actually the alignment of the beingness in it, that we're not manifesting it as a different life experience. And so, you know, on this certain level, I've been very much like in, you know, teaching this message that you get to experience awesomeness in every aspect of your life. If you're not, you are in some sort of internal bullshit story or game as to why you're not experiencing it. And so through this last year, as I kept getting drawn to, ooh, how would I get to support the masses more, or share this with the masses more? Now my online program's now available, just instead of just in my masterminds, etc. I had things show up. You know, you and I were in Texas actually, and it's when I met Ron Lynch. And I didn't know this at the time, that he had been watching me and was like, I gotta know your story, so he had actually found out I was in town and asked Jesse Elder to get me there. Jesse Elder messaged, you and I were hanging out together, and Jesse Elder messaged me, he's like, hey, you gotta be in this room of people, these high level influencers are in this mastermind, you gotta get over here. You and I were like, hey, we're like 2 blocks away, we went out for a walk. Like how these beautiful, right? These beautiful things always show up. So we go over into that room, and I remember just being like, I'm the only female, and you know, like Ron is like speaking about these things he's inspired to do, and I was like, oh, that's what I do, that's what I do, I already teach that, oh my goodness, that's what I do. And it was just like, and then just sharing this message, and you know, he left and we walked out, and literally within minutes he had messaged me and said, I want to chat with you. And if you guys don't know who Ron Lynch is, he's the one who did the GoPro, the George Foreman grill. He's partnered with some of the biggest, most massive film companies. He's the consultant for Samsung, all their commercials. So, you know, people will pay $5 grand to sit down and have 5 minutes of coffee with him to share ideas. And he messaged me and said, I want to talk to you. And so he called me at my house and we chatted for a good hour or so. And he's like, I want to share your story, like your real story. Because a lot of people hear like what you know about me, you know, you probably know more about me than most people, being really, really close peeps. But you know, the $2 an hour waitress, you know, to this, and they don't hear all the back end of, you know, growing up on a farm and poverty consciousness and all the sicknesses and diseases, and you know, the fight with the belief systems about people and all things, right? And so he just really was like, I want to share your story. So he came out with me, spent 2 days with me in Utah, and literally threw together, he's like, this, you know, had the inspiration, he's like, I want to do a documentary of your life. So that's about to hit in the next month.
Oh wow, that's solid. I was on the phone with Ron a couple days ago.
Yeah.
About a month ago.
Yeah, I love him. He is just, you know, one of the most beautiful beings that you could care to be connected with. So all these things showed up for me to assist the masses. And so we're, you know, we're about to, in the next month or so, be able to be pushing the program through Walmart. Hopefully I have connections with like Deepak and Oprah and people that are going to be promoting and pushing out my programs as well, my book launching. So we've got we're now able to finally go to that space where I want to influence people with the actual how-tos and the integration to shift or create all these connections, these dots, versus this up, you know, the surface level, like let's speak this, let's do this, let's fight or force it, let's just put this logic into our minds that says this is how we're going to put it together, instead of actually missing the gap of why it's not happening, which is actually the feeling and the connection to all these things. So I've been super passionate about that for about the last year and a half, and it's all kind of come to fruition. And then in the last 2 months, I had some intense, like, there's more that I get to understand and do, and started diving into super genes and my gene keys and a lot of this DNA activation stuff, and went to Europe. And so, you know, I'm about to head to Colombia with my peeps for my stuff that I do down there with like really cellular memory integration stuff. So I'm just really passionate right now about this deeper level of understanding. I feel like the consciousness is being raised to a higher frequency and vibration. With you and I, Bri, when we're sitting here talking about this stuff, that's when we have opportunity for it to be shared. The people go, oh, really? That exists? I could actually, like, when you think about it, like 5 years ago, Anna and I, you saw our video, we were talking about it, how it's like consciousness was like very rare, right? And now it's more of a known, well-known thing. It's more like, yay, cool, we're in the cool group, consciousness, right? So the more that we talk about it, the more that we understand that these things exist, like even what I'm understanding and finding these activations of DNA that are just been dormant because of the way we've been raised, and we've been taught to sit in a classroom and do what everybody open your books and everybody do this and everybody be quiet, and we've been taught to shut down literally how we're meant to operate, and our brain expansion and our all of these things. then it just, it's kept us living small instead of being able to have everything that we truly want to experience. So.
Totally agree. It's really interesting you say about the whole being part, because is that my volume or yours? I'm checking my volume down.
Mine's turned up all the way just so that people can hear you, hopefully on the Facebook Live as well.
All right. As far as the whole being part, like one of the questions I used to ask myself is, okay, what do I get to do right now?
Yeah.
And it finally dawned on me, it's like, who do I get to be right now?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Yep, that's it.
And it's a totally different shift in outcome. It's a totally different shift in energy. It's a totally different shift in thought pattern. I mean, it's a totally different shift in all of it.
Yep.
So it's amazing how where you're at, like the level that you're at right now, like 1 millimeter shift is quantum level advancements, because that little bitty thought has sex with all the other thoughts and everything just explodes. So really amazing. I would love to hear more on, how do you say it? Domineer?
Domineer, yes. So Domineer is,
I went and geeked out on a bunch of pictures that I saw
you have.
right after you showed me that, and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Right, yeah, I could go grab a book that I have in here that has actual footage or pictures from inside the temple, which is a sacred temple they built inside the mountain, and some of the self-healing things. But it's interesting because, again, these things, it's when we start to open up our consciousness, like awareness, right? Like all of a sudden we're like, you see things that you never saw were there. You didn't know that you were a creator. You know, we start off and we go through thinking that we're a victim and controlled by, at a young age, being like, you have to go here and we're taking you to the babysitters, and you start to grow into this level of awareness that you're a creator. Well, there's a whole nother level of awareness above being a creator, which is where life happens through you. And we know that we're an interdependence, interconnected to the universe. I was actually talking about this on a show today, and that, in our consciousness, we've tried to create logic around everything, and it's like the mind has to see it. So this is what I mean by, even when we've gone about this, like, let's get into the mindset, so many coaches are like, mindset, and that's still very surface compared to connecting all the dots, all of our operating systems. Like I said, if we're speaking one thing, you, my friend, are huge on the verbal game, on the conscious languaging system, the operating system that's happening here. When we speak something, what's actually going on with the energy? What is it actually saying about our beliefs? You're big on the body alignment, right? If I cross my arms, you'd be like, Mars, what are you blocking? What's going on, right?
You know what's interesting? Let's talk about that for a sec.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what people used to think is that when their arms are crossed, that it does mean that you're closed off.
Yeah.
And it actually can. And there's also another way that I found to look at it from a perspective of, like, say, for example, if I'm sitting here talking to you, and my left side is the arm that's on top, where I have my hands crossed, and my left side is the one that's on top. This just means that I'm thinking with my emotions. So I would engage you with, hey, how do you feel about this, or what do you feel about that? Versus
that's
saying,
the feminine.
Hey, what do you think about this? And
the feminine energy, the allowance versus the do, and the masculine, which is the action take. So you brought it to a point in that, see, this is where even a lot of people aren't in this understanding of that. Whenever I speak something, I'm literally setting out the declaration, I'm creating the energy around it, to even when I, whatever my body language is doing, to my feeling center, all these things in alignment is how we actually manifest something. Yet there's this other level of understanding, which is, even realizing that there is no do. Like you said, it's like, well, what I have to do, that's a forced fight energy versus how do I get to be? How do I allow myself to actually sit with it, feel the feeling of it, and receive? And this is why it's interesting when people, so many times, like, I coach some of the biggest businesses in the world, and so many people are like, come to me even for business coaching, and it's always like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, we're not going to do jack shit. We're going to actually integrate and align you to be able to receive, to be in alignment, to love yourself so whole and complete, and like believe. Even there's a belief system, there's things that we're doing, but the doing is really learning how to be in a place where you're worthy of allowing yourself to receive, so you can receive it. So out in Domineer, it's almost this greater understanding that we're aren't even aware of. It's actually the 8th wonder in the world that most people don't even know exists. And there's 4 energy grid lines that are there. They built a sacred temple inside the mountain. Love you too, Christopher Vanberg. Ah, heart. It's my other brother that I love. I just saw his message pop up. I'm like, oh, Chris. And so there's this shifting of energy, and it like for myself personally, if you guys catch the video that I did with Anna, it was even changing what I was having issues with my knee by transferring the intelligence of a knee that works to the intelligence of my knee. It's through energy, not this, let me go have surgery. So in a way, we're going from even that type of understanding in our society as to like, oh, I would have to do this or be this to then get that, versus allowing ourselves to be in the vibration or the frequency of it. And actually, Brian, I get to throw my computer on, because I did a couple shows today on a cord because it's about to go dead. I just saw this. Hang on. Let me grab it.
You're good. So really, what Marci's saying right now to me is like, I get super geeked out about this stuff. Like, from the standpoint of understanding like what's truly available and what we have been deprived of understanding that is available,
yes,
is fascinating. There's so much stuff that we do not know that's out, that's available, that would literally boggle your mind.
Yep.
Our government, in my opinion, is at least 30, 40, 50 years ahead of us in technology,
yep,
and things like that. So the things that are possible, like we probably are the ones driving most of the spaceships that are out and about.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's talking about some super fascinating stuff, and there's been some super fascinating minds that can withdraw and create that. And what I've literally come to find out and believe is that whatever you can vision, you can create. That's how, once you can get to where you're operating in that type of position,
yep,
and yes, it's going to take some work to be able just to condition
yep,
yourself, to be able to allow yourself. It takes some consistent persistence with being able to find that in yourself, for sure.
Well, and see, this is the thing though. That's where there's a piece of that that's true. Like you get to take the action or be the person who lives in those in that way of being, right? Yet the idea and the story that it's got to take work, things are a process, it has to be hard, is exactly opposite of what is really true.
Bad word to use,
right?
Take diligence.
Yes, it's in just that it's like you get to be committed to who you choose to be. Just like if you're someone who's like, well, I'm going to speak shit and I'm going to talk about how life is hard, but then yet I want a life to be awesome, and maybe in your business you're doing the things to try to get that as a result, but you're doing it out of that hard energy and you're speaking shit. You're not really committed to the awesomeness. You're committed to the shit. So you're going to create more shit, right? It's like you don't get what you deserve. You get what you're committed to, is what I love to say, because whatever your results are is what you're committed to.
Yeah, totally agree. So I would like to have more explain to me like some of the processes that you went through at domineer, like as far as like what are some of the healing modalities and things that you did. I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Anna's going to be here later today. We're going to actually do another show, which we can dive into this a little bit more, but it's selfic healing technology.
What are you doing your show on?
We're just going to pop up a Facebook Live when she's here later today. We're actually doing some different activation processes later tonight because I'm leaving for Colombia, obviously, in a couple days. And so as I've been doing all this activation, what I can tell you is like there's, again, I had mentioned before how there's dormant spaces in our DNA because the way that we've shut them down. And I always say that, we are superheroes, and we are so attracted to superheroes because we are superheroes, right? Like we see superheroes in our society and we think it's like, it's mythical. And we're like, superheroes, but it's because we can actually see that and we love it because it's inside us. We have superhuman capacity and ability. So for me, diving into like my super genes, gene keys is, just something that's, I mean, if I could grab my book, the Gene Keys book by Richard Rudd is literally when you specifically get your genetic profile and you understand what your specific DNA has been designed as, for your shadow frequencies, meaning the things that you were meant to overcome. You read that and you're like, holy fuck, that's my life. And so that, with also the things that you get to transmute through those experiences to then be your gifts, and then your cities, which is your, like the way that you're operating this level of higher operation, your gifts. It's so mind expanding to understand that those were the things that you chose and took on. And we look at how everything aligns, everything that I've gone through in my life experience, from like now choosing how to create the world that I live into, the messages that I speak, all of it, when I looked at my gene keys, are like, wow, everything was exactly what I've experienced in my life. And so going out to domineer was a whole nother level for me of activating some of these super genes, these things that were dormant inside me. And so each time, so even when I came back from Colombia last year, Bri, like, I came back from Colombia last year and it was like, I had the download and the message that I was now meant to work with high-level influencers at $1 million. At $1 million a piece, right? And again, so everyone says, well, that's crazy. You know, who does that? I mean, this was the message I got. I was like, hey guys, by the way, I'm now receiving 5 clients I'm gonna work with at $1 million to work with me for the year. And everyone's like, shh, that's crazy. The only person I know that does that is Tony Robbins. And I was like, and I'm Marci Lock. And I do it too, right?
I get it, totally.
And within a month, I had my first client at $1 million. So to even go from a place where, like, you know, I had like I was coaching people around 150,000 to I had my one, you know, big business client that I did like a $500,000 deal with, to then jump to say, hey, I'm coaching people at this level, was because that was the level of worth for myself I was willing to receive, and I knew it was the level of investment those type of individuals had to put into themselves to take it seriously, to walk through their shit. And knowing that, you know, it always transmutes into that, you know, it's like my first client that was at $1 million, he had an ROI of 5 million within 4 weeks of starting to coach with me, a whole entire life shift. So I know that it's like, the investment is always going to be, you know, a huge, massive return but it's the amount that someone has to invest within themselves to be able to take it seriously and move through that process. So all this stuff is now where we're leaning in is how much more then, or can we use our multidimensional capabilities? How much more, you know, because I used to, when I start talking to people, you know, you've heard this too, where people will be like, are you psychic? Because I could hear in their words, you do it too, you can hear in their words their identity systems, their beliefs, you can hear what their programs or their patterns are. And so you know, and you're like, oh, you know, and you can go speak right to that. And they're like, how did you know that about me? I'm like, I'm not psychic, I just heard everything you said. I'm hearing, I can see the underlying connections. Now I recognize, oh yes, I am fucking psychic because I'm using my pineal gland. My pineal gland, which is through my crown chakra, is like bing, right? So I can feel the energy. And so at a different level, let's think about this. When people, like, you know, you might hug. So if I hug you, Bri, how do I hug you? How do I hug all my peeps?
Like, you're gonna break me in half?
I run and I jump in your arms and I'm like, ah, right? You guys grab me, you hold me, right? I'm so like love. And that, what's the difference between that and when you go hug someone, you meet someone and you're like, hi. Like, and it feels like you're hugging a rock with limbs. You just feel their energy. They're like, hi there. I'm not so sure about you. That's energy. You already know you're in tune with that. When people walk in the room and they like feel like something's off, or, you know, that's energy, that's intuition. That is your pineal gland being able to sense things. Yet now you take it to these other levels, just like you and I we'll work with clients, and I can hear what's going on in their words. Now I'm at a place where it's like, I can feel what's going on with my clients and send them messages, or it's just like us being in tune. You sent me messages, sometimes you're like, Mar, sending you love. And I've been like, dude, perfect timing. So receiving that. That was amazing, right? You just felt, you know, I get to do this, or we hear something, we're like, oh, this is where I get to go. But see, this is how we're meant to operate. It's flow. It's like water. It's the feminine energy that is the creation energy that allows us to flow. But then we try to be like rocks and hit a wall and we're like, what do I do? Where if we were in flow like the water, we'd go through the cracks and we'd find different ways. And so that's this other level of understanding now. Like I'm saying, like opening up the dormant DNA, and even being able to have my pineal gland be like more activated. Now I can actually really sense what's going on, and there's so much more energy moving through me that now I'm like acclimating that integration of like, okay, can I handle this much energy? But the same thing happened to me when I came back from Colombia last year, and I'm not, you know, I'm obviously going to Colombia soon, a whole nother experience, but I had all this like, whoa, my body's like gotta get used to this, like I can feel at a greater degree. I can actually hear at a greater degree. And all of that also comes with standing in another place of I can express at a greater degree. I can be seen at a greater degree. I can be myself. So when you ask me what I was really passionate about, for the last couple months, I'm like, I get to be the fucking sun for the world, because now I have this intention to bring this understanding to the masses, to have the same type of life experience of awesomeness that you're designed to have, like I've had. So if I'm gonna be the sun, I get to love myself enough to be willing to be seen as big as the sun. Everybody can see the sun and they're not judging the sun. They're just like, hey sun, thank you for what you got, right? It's like I can express as big as the sun. I have to be willing to hold that much energy running through my body and capacity to hold that much space to be that kind of message. So that's why I'm still learning to operate at greater degrees of understanding and feeling and receiving and opening up more levels of consciousness that I didn't even know existed before.
That's awesome. So well spoken. So hey, I would like your geniusness on if someone's like really looking to improve, to grow, to expand, to up level, like what are some steps that someone could do today to figure out like what that looks like? Maybe some things to give them some action items to work on.
Yeah, okay.
I know you mentioned something about the borax stuff. What is that specifically? Is that like
So last night I did a bath with borax, bentonite clay, sea salt, bath salts, and then also another kind of salt I'm remembering now. I'll tell you in a little bit. Anyways, 2 different types of sea salts, and then my bentonite clay and my borax. Again, these are things that, the first time I had, I had some real life Jedis and wizards. I'm saying these things exist, that people have these understandings that we think are in movies. And they were like, take a borax bath, take half a cup, 20 minutes is probably plenty. And at 20 minutes, I was like, my heart rate was racing and I felt my body, I was like, whoa, right? Now I'm up to like 2 cups of borax plus the clay, plus all this other stuff. So it's just even opening up. You and I could dive into that probably a little bit more. And yes, we can find, it's actually something that I want to dive into a little bit later with Anna too, because there's a lot more that can be shared about that, and I'm still learning and growing that, so I won't say that I'm an expert in it by any degree. Yet it's ways that we can actually open up some, it's like why you go down, when I go into the jungle and we do these things where it's like doing mud baths and other things, and we're connecting to the earth in so many different ways. There's actually elements and nutrients and different things that we have available to us that actually open up things within our brain and our bodies that we don't do because we live in this society. So, some of these different elements, some of these different crystals and things that you can allow yourself to utilize can also assist you in activating some of that DNA and bringing yourself to more understanding, or again, more brain power. If you guys saw the post I did when I was coming back from Europe, I had this little machine on that does like pineal gland realignment, like flashes different lights, and there's things through sound and light frequency that actually realign our pineal gland so that it's operating to a greater degree. It opens and expands levels in our brain. So all of this stuff are little things that we have access to that we can do to go, how can I actually, instead of feeling like you're walking around, like think about you feeling like you're walking around with a bag on your head, and then you go to taking off the bag and then you're still wearing like dark glasses and then lighter glasses. It's like we're still shedding these layers of how you can be like, I can see everything and I can feel everything, which gives me feedback of everything. So let's bring it down to something that's, and remind me, one of the best suggestions I have for your peeps is my alarms that I have my clients go through. But bringing this back to like, thinking about how, we start off in this place where we're stuck, right? And I'll just go into the alarms right now. So it's like, we tend to be so reactive. We look at like our whole world around us and it's like, it's like shit. So then we're reacting and we're reacting and we're reacting. What I want to assist people do, and we start to become proactive in making the changes so we don't just end up reacting. And so one of the best tools that I have with my peeps, and if everyone goes to marcilockmentoring.com, they can get my freedom audios. You've listened to my freedom audios. I know you and your girl did that a while ago. But marcilockmentoring.com, my freedom audios literally give you this kind of smack in the face of how you're meant to operate. And so when you understand this, all of a sudden it becomes so much more clear. Then let me just try to use my mindset and use my logic, which again, we can talk about how logic doesn't really even exist, because logic is just perception, right? Like you have your logic you can use when you get all this information and you see something as true. So you're like, I'm going to apply this logic to it. And that can be slanted perception based on whatever you're thinking. And I can have a totally different perception that's my logic. So because all things are true, logic really isn't a source of, anything clarity other than say, well, that's true for you and this is true for me. So, and I'll give you an example in, how we've operated in this society is say, okay, so I need proof, I need evidence, it's got to be logic, we're trying so hard to use our brain and our mindset to create the path or the understanding. And Bri, when we try to force something to be so it's got to look this way, we're blocking all the other options that are available to us, that the universe has for us, because we're like, nope, it has to look this way. So even logic of 1 + 1 = 2 is what society would be like, yeah, that's 1 + 1 = 2. Well, see, bullshit. That's only slanted perception, because 1 + 1 can't ever equal 2. It's always got to at least equal 3. Because you plus me is interdependency. So there's also another energy of 3, right? Just like we have energy with the universe, we have energy with all things, all people, but yet we've created the story that there's separation of self and separation from the universe, separation from each other. So we've closed off instead of connection. Exactly, separation from all things. And what we're aligning to get back to is unity consciousness. Because that's the only way we can return to this frequency where there is no poverty, that we let go of poverty programming, we let go of patterns and behaviors and mass and things where it says, I have to show up this way because we think we're separate and I have to be like this or that. When we shed all those layers, and again, this comes through internal alignment. Also, when I love myself whole and complete, I can only see everything and everyone in front of me as whole and complete and love them. There's no more like, oh, she's beautiful, I'm not like her. It's like, oh, wow, fuck yeah, she's amazingly beautiful. I love that about her. And I love this about you, and I love that about you, because all I can see outside of me is the connections and the love for things versus what inside of me I haven't accepted. So I know I can go 50 different places, but we'll bring it back. I can bring it back to the alarms if you want to know about the alarms. You have something to say, though?
No, when you got something that I've been enjoying, I'm sure no one else has too, about what you're talking about.
About what? Say that one more time.
I said just keep going.
Okay, so with the alarms, something that I have my clients do, and you said, is there something people can do now? Is first off, we just got to recognize how we're creating this spiral that we're in versus how do we stop it and become proactive at creating something different. So something I have my personal clients do, and peeps say in my program, the first thing I suggest to them, I'm like, right away, set your alarm to go off every hour. And like mine says something like, you know, I think I told you this, like, goddess of greatness, what are you creating? Or it says something different, so it like catches my attention. And instantly when it goes off, I have them do it. I say, just do a check-in, okay? Because all of a sudden we're so used to operating subconsciously, we're not even operating from our present self. Like, we're not living in the now. Every moment we're sitting here, our mind's like, well, what about da-da-da-da in the future? And it's projecting into the future based off of our past. It's like, well, when that happened, and okay, so I don't want to get too close, or I'm gonna have to guard myself. And what if they think that? We're not even fucking right now. Like, right now is the only way to be living consciously in this moment. But we've disconnected on how to operate that way. So instead, when we allow ourselves to learn to become present in each moment and live in this now moment, that is actually the only way creation happens anyways, right? Because when something shows up, we're like, oh, what would this be? And how can I create that? And we allow that flow versus us trying to like, oh, I gotta create the program and the systems and the da-da, and this has to be this way. And we're closing off what's actually available right there. So with the alarm, when the alarm goes off, I just have you do a check-in, which is like, cool, tune in. What am I creating right now? What am I creating right now? If what I'm creating right now, how do you even know that, first off, Bri? How do you know what you're creating right now?
So, I got to say this.
You got
so
what?
I just got an Apple Watch.
Yeah, an Apple Watch.
2 months ago,
okay.
And it has an alarm that goes off every hour that's a breathing app.
Yeah.
So it will literally blow up this flower every hour for a minute, and I follow its breathing.
Nice.
And connect back down. I'll use something very similar to what you're doing, but I created a little filter called Abra, like abracadabra. Mm-hmm. So the A stands for acknowledge, the B stands for breathe, the 2 R's stands for release and realign.
Acknowledge, breathe, release, realign, and appreciation. Beautiful. Abra.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So being able to use that filter, like you're talking about, to literally being able to understand what your body's attempting to communicate to you authentically. Yep. Meaning being accurately in the current reality, so you can actually shift it. Yep. Like one of the things I picked up from y'all that I use frequently is whether if your stomach's tight, that's fear. If your chest and throat's tight, that's sorrow. If your back and neck's tight, that's anger. Like being able to identify that alone is a life changer. Yeah. So even if you guys didn't hear that with Brian, is let's get into this. Even how like doing the check-in, right? So we tune into like, well, what am I creating right now? And if we go, well, what the way that you know what you're creating is, he just said it, in the way your body feels. And you can go, well, what am I thinking right now? If you're thinking like about, you know, a worry about a meeting coming up, or you got to get this done, or, you know, you got to get back to that person, or I got to create this, or I have to put this out, or I have to do this marketing. Again, all these things are like a thought that is actually shit, because even the have-tos, the shoulds, the needs that you're speaking are an energy of like, oh no, it might not work out, it might not be good enough. We're already pre-designing there to be fear based around it, and it not to be that, oh, this is easy and what feels good and what would I like to create. And so we catch the thought that we're thinking, and we catch the feeling that we're in. And if the feeling we're in is not, so if you're not in light and love and peace and happiness and joy, like we're just feeling good, we're in awesomeness, everything's easy. But when we're like, oh no, I have to do this and I should do that, and it's like we're in fear, or we're in any of our limiting stories, notice our body goes and it contracts.
and it gets, you know, it's like holding in the negative energy. This is what we're trying to do. We get scared, what do? We go like this, right? So we lock in the negative energy and contract, and so our body will tell us. So what Brian just even said is that yeah, okay, I was like, I saw that flash off for a second, is that he learned this in my Freedom Audios, and in my Freedom Audios, it'll teach you this, again, at marcilockmentoring.com. It'll teach you how you're meant to operate. That if you notice your chest is heavy and you're not even sure what it's about, you can just ask yourself, what could I really be sad about? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, like you tune in and you get clear on it. Like, what could I be afraid of? And so, you know, if you're not feeling awesome, this is where I make it super ass simple, my friends. It gets to be so simple. It's meant to be so simple. If you're not feeling awesome, if you're not feeling love and joy and peace and happiness, then you're in something else that's creating a story or a lie, or you're holding on to a limiting belief, etc. There's internal bullshit going on that is disconnecting you from that. So when we just go, well, what am I creating right now? Oh man, I was having this shitty thought. Well, really, what's going to come up later from that shitty thought is shit, right? So now we're being proactive. What were you going to say?
Another one.
Another shitty thought, right? And another shitty thing, right? Yes, exactly. So instead, when we catch it, we go, interesting. So notice I said interesting. We don't go, damn it, or I did it again, or I'm putting focus there, or stop that. We don't force or fight it. We just, interesting, allow. So this is the disconnect of how society is operating, is that we're always like trying to force something, we're trying to create something, we're trying to put it into a parameter instead of allowing it to be like, well, why would this show up and what is this telling me? All right, so so I go through my 5 steps in that Freedom Audios that will really teach people how to walk through this. But basically when we do a check-in, you can catch where you're off, and if you're off, then I always say we go through my 5 steps. So it's like, what am I feeling and why? So you're acknowledging, you're getting clear with that. Well, what do I want to create, right? Like, what do I want? Well, then what would that new thought or perception get to be, and what's the action I get to take? But the action is now like, ooh, like in a feeling good energy, versus if you go, well, okay, well, I'm going to force myself to do this because this will be good. You're still in shit. So we get to bring ourselves back to feeling awesomeness. Now, if you're in awesomeness, I always say, then how can you expand that? Like, if I'm in awesomeness, and if I feel awesome right now, Brian, you feel awesome right now because you're talking to me, right?
Yes, and I felt awesome before I started talking to you.
Right? See? Perfect.
Now it's just
it expanded. Yeah. So I ask, I'm like, okay, so if this is as awesome as if this was only 50% of how awesome I can feel, what would another 50% look like? Or if this is as awesome as I can feel, what would another 50% look like? And I can actually tune in and allow and give myself permission right now to go, I can feel even more awesome. Or how can I expand into how can I receive even more joy or love right now? I'm like, I can make myself a tea because I'm worthy of having a tea. Tea time. Right? I can turn on some music so we can expand. So we can start to integrate and implement these ways of not only allowing ourselves to receive more, and it's like we're expanding our level of worth all the time, our comfort zone all the time, yet there's, it comes down to bringing all the operating systems together like you and I were talking about. It's like from the words to your perceptions to your feeling versus trying to just do one thing over here, one thing over there, and we're disconnected from it.
Completely agree. One of my favorite questions is, how can I feel even better right now?
Yep.
And so that typically boils down to breathing or drinking more water or doing some essential oils or something like that, like something quick fix-wise. That's a great question. I find that there's definitely certain questions that I have that I cue myself. Like when I'm doing my cardio and stuff here in the morning at the house, that's kind of my way to do my thing and to get my head straight. That's when I go through a lot of things I have memorized just to help me function and filter information through certain filters so that I'm ultimately creating the outcome I desire versus getting lost in the minutia. Because if you're not renewing your mind for washing your brain, you're totally going to be just stuck.
Yeah.
So
well, and
being able to be aware of that and get some different operating systems, the fastest way to upgrade.
Yeah, but there's...
So you can check out Marci's stuff on there too. I have it up there posted.
Marcilockmentoring.com.
So you can actually pick that up on there and get some more wisdom from her.
There's something though that Brian you touch base on, and this is where I'm talking about the deeper level of consciousness, is that even when we say how can I feel better, it's like we judge and shame if we're not in feeling awesome, right? So again, I want to teach all individuals to have a life of awesomeness. And it's funny how I'll get so many people that will say like, Marci, do you ever experience shit? Because like your life is awesome. And I'm like, yeah, and I don't see it as shit. Because it's like I understand that literally every single bit of darkness is the only access to my greater light. It is the feedback, it is the gift is always in the shit. And that's why, like, you know, if we get into some of the stories of the different things I've done, like, you know, down in the jungles where I was like smacked down on the ground and being like, literally all of a sudden seeing the shame I took on at 4 years old, that I was so ashamed, that I was like, I thought I was so ugly and I was stupid and I didn't want to be seen. And I literally like remembered those moments of going through school and wanting to be hidden. You know, I've been embracing even lately, like embracing my whole natural self of even looking at the stories like society has brought into, like, I need a tan to be out on the beach, or I need a tan to da-da-da-da. Like all these things that I found, even little ways that I was still hiding, me just even being fully embracing and loving of myself. And part of that is that we embrace the emotions of, or the even at my level, you know, pulling out these old programs as I went through the stuff in Europe and having all these really old things come up because I had to release these programs. It was like for me to go, how could me at this level be having those thoughts that I might not be as attractive as with the tan, or that it might not look good? I was like, wow, how can I? And then I was like, whoa, how can that means that there's obviously, again, it tells me what else inside me I get to love. Notice I'm sporting my sexy whiteness now, my sexy purity, right? And it allowed me to go, there's another place inside me. I was still hiding. I was still scared. My little scared little self was trying to pretend to be something that the world would accept, instead of what else inside me about that do I get to love? And so there's another level of accepting that, but we can only have that. So what you're saying is when people catch themselves and they go, oh, how do I revert back to awesome? That's great. Yet if we don't allow the space to actually feel and accept that and see what it's there for and what it's teaching us, and accept and love ourselves in our darkest of darkest, right? Because we know that's actually is the only way you release the fight of the darkness, or you release the struggle, is when you embrace it and you see it for what it is, knowing it's just a different vibration, and it was there as your shadow frequencies. You got to learn to experience and understand the gifts that come from those, that you couldn't have that variation if you didn't do it. So I just want to, you know, influence or contribute that there is also the acceptance of everything that you're experiencing. And I always say, people are always like, Marci, what's the one thing you could just teach people, or what's the one thing you could tell people to change their lives? And I'm like, you know, if it boils down to it, if the only thing that I could share and leave with you, it would be this. It would be like, love everything you're experiencing now and everything you've ever experienced. If you could see it through those eyes, and feeling too, that you literally love, like I love, you know, it's like you hear me talk about my former and, you know, getting cheated on and all that. And I'm like, I see him only out of so much love, appreciation, and gratitude. I literally want to cry every time I talk about him, that he showed up for me to bring me that experience and that contract to allow me to learn what I did. I wouldn't be here and who I am today if I hadn't had that beautiful gift. Could you see everything you've ever experienced, every single person that comes into your space? And this is something that, you know, going through some of my processes in Europe, Bri, that I even got clear on some of the things that I contracted. I contracted over 170,000 people to trigger the fuck out of me, so that I would never fall asleep in my human experience, so that I would be so awake to find out who I am and the greatness that I am, that allows me to be this message that I can be the sun, right? And so it's like, looking at it, it's like I took on a life of so much trauma, and that's why I can understand and relate and resonate with so many people. I'm like, well, I experienced so much shit in so many different ways that I can understand all these belief systems and these identities and these patterns, these programs. Yet if I don't love all of that, I can never be free. I can never allow myself to be in this place where I fully am accepting and able to receive the level of worth to have more, because I haven't accepted everything that I've ever been, everything that I've ever experienced, and all of it.
Such a great message.
Yeah.
Really being able to give yourself full permission to really just go deep and love everything that is questionable, and being able to just be okay with it, whatever that may mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a huge. I'm sitting over here taking notes too. So
yeah.
I
love it.
I really, you know what? For a long time, I hated journaling. Like, do not pay me to journal. I'm like, finally figured out a way to actually enjoy doing it. It's not so much journaling. It's broken down into different segments, but the self-journal has been super helpful for me. I really have been grateful to appreciate to be able to use that stuff. It brought some good value.
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, even talking about some of the things that you implement. I just heard backlash. Do I just throw my headphones? You good?
Oh, I think you're good now.
Okay. Yeah, like the 5-minute journal is something that my boys use. Every morning my boys get up and they have their self-empowerment focus time. They literally get up. You've stayed at my house. You've seen them, like Gavin gets up and he's like already written his 5-minute journal, his intentions for the day, and you know, he's done his little mirror exercise and his meditation, and he's packing his lunch and doing his whole thing. So like there's lots of great little tools, again, to now implement behaviors. Yet if there's ever this, like, I'm not worthy of the time, or like what's behind it, then there's kind of a massive disconnect in it. So you're saying you're using a self journal. I haven't heard of that one. That's new.
Yeah, it's called the Best Self.
Ah.
And basically, here, I'll show you. So on this side, you can write down all your scheduled stuff on there.
Oh, got it. Okay, I have seen that one.
You can write down 3 of your what I'm grateful for is in the morning. On the next page, you got 3 of what I'm grateful for in the evening. You got your goals, your success list, and then your wins and your lessons learned.
Yep.
So it allows you to jot a lot of stuff in a very condensed amount of space. I find it to be really helpful because I can travel with it too, so it's easy to bust it out. And I even got little markers in there for certain experiences and things that I've had to kind of go back and review. So if anything, it's allowed me to upgrade faster, so that when I actually notice something, I can say, oh wow, I noticed that I'm doing blank, 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 blank. Yeah. I can jot it down, note it, embody it, and then my subconscious, when I get into that unconscious state, I'm able to be like, oh, hey, let's shift and adjust out of this. So you know what's really interesting? I did not really have the full experience of this until recently. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Like, I love that guy. His ability to explain the science and understand and put it all together, I'm like, well, that makes total sense. So what I found out was that I didn't realize that I was going unconscious in certain situations. Like eating at night. I love to eat at night. And I can go unconscious and eat a bag of chips and be like, wow, that was fast. Maybe I should have just had like 2 or 3. Whatever it may be.
Let's talk about that.
Different experiences that pop up, and I'm like, hey, you're not awake right now. I'm just totally going with what my body has done in the past. So being able to be aware that I was actually going unconscious has been a great tool just to be able to understand that and shift out of that. And I can just imagine.
You're super conscious. You're super conscious. So this is where I'm saying there's these layers we get to continue to find, right? Like, so you know that I have my whole audio series on the whole truth about weight loss, which is like breaking through, like literally getting to see like where you have associations, why you sabotage, where you're triggered, and then we automatically go to food as one of our ways to feel a feeling outside of ourselves, because that's how we've been trained. So you get hit by something and you suddenly find yourself eating a bag of chips, and so we start to catch these things and go, interesting, like what am I feeling right now? Oh, I was feeling like I rocked today and I really wanted a reward, and you didn't even realize that you had a connection to the chips as a reward, and I'm trying to reward myself. I'm seeking a feeling outside of me that actually, instead of me going, wait, that doesn't really support me, it'll make me feel like shit. It never makes me feel rewarded because I feel worse. I feel, all these horrible things. I'm foggy, I'm clouded, and it doesn't give me the results, or I don't live in the results I want and deserve with my body. So you catch it and you go, oh, I'm wanting to feel rewarded for the day. I'm wanting to feel love. How would I get to give that to myself? And you get to go, go for a walk, or do a meditation, or go have sex with your wife, or like go enjoy, like go create reward, right? That actually gives you the feeling you want. So that is the surface, right? That's one aspect. Now, as we go deeper and we start to understand our triggers and how to actually align to allowing ourselves that life should be awesome all the time. There's no like, I need something outside of me to try to give myself something that I can't. All of a sudden those things filter away. That, it's like, that's why I say, I don't, for years and years and years, it's like, I don't have this like draw to sabotage, because I'm in alignment with my body is literally like, I live in the behaviors that allow me to feel awesome. And because the worth is there, I've disconnected those old associations. Now, something I want to share with you, Bri, is ever since I even got back, so I've been diving into even more, obviously, this integration of super genes and all this stuff, and doing some like massive like heavy metal cleanses and just different things, like using like the borax, and using different things to allow myself to even cleanse what we're taking in all the time just from our environment. And part of that was doing a colonic. I did a couple colonics, and then I found out about this guy in LA. Well, like colonics are like releasing, even like cleaning out the colon, the fecal matter. But this is what I learned that was so interesting to me. I go up to a place in LA, this guy in LA, that he does all the Victoria's Secret models. He does like all the celebrities go into him because he's just like in his apartment does this thing. It's not like, they're seen and walking into a colonoscopy place or whatever. Anyways, like he was telling me, you know, he's told me all sorts of stories, but you know, they fly in the Victoria's Secret models, have him do the colonic with him the night before that they do their photo shoot. But it's because he gets so high up into the colon and cleanses out. This is what I found. I'm like, I am a clean eater. You know, I'm super ass healthy, and literally pulling parasites and worms out of me. He says everybody has them, but nothing gets up into the colon that high. And so I learned all these things even to understand that, you know, our colon is this tiny little tube. And here we so unconsciously eat our food, and you couple chews even and swallow. And we're told these stories like, well, your body has all this acid. It's going to break down your food. It's going to move through your system. I literally saw and witnessed how like kale, spinach, quinoa, all these things don't even break down. And how if you're not chewing your food, then it's literally like it's just getting stuck in your colon or your tube. Then it surrounds the sides. Then that's where you get these toxins. Then you get these parasites and these worms that feed off of it, and you have like no room for anything to go through. Then you think about all the healthy supplements that we do and all the nutrition we do. It's not even sinking into our bodies. And this is why we have so much sickness and disease, etc. But just the big thing there for me that I found where I could be unconscious in eating was to not even know that all my life here we've been trained. I caught this years ago as I started to understand, you know, the levels of consciousness connections. I would catch myself being like, why do I always eat standing up? And why am I always hurrying? Oh, because I was raised where we didn't get to sit down to eat. We were always working. You always had to be producing. You know, like I was raised that it's like you couldn't even sit down and watch a movie. You literally had to be doing laundry, or we were doing, you know, husking cherries or corn, or you know what I mean, right? We were always doing something. So we take on these behaviors based on our beliefs, and then that's what we've created for so long. So I didn't even realize when he told me, he's like, every single time you should take a bite and literally chew it 30 times and you know, before you swallow. And I'm like, to do that, I'm like, oh my God, I ate a quarter of what I normally ate, and it took me 3 times as long, because it was like chew and sit. And like literally, there's no reason for you to hold your fork, because you're like chew, literally 30 times. And then I started to witness my son, like Skylar, we went out for date night, and he can just like hork down sushi. Like he's always like, we go get sushi because he loves sushi. And I'm like, he can go through so many rolls so fast, just like that. And I'm like, it's because we've done this unconscious eating instead of like chew our food, let it all chew up, and then swallow. And then the next bite. And even to allow myself to say, I'm going to sit down every time I eat, and that I get to take a bite and chew it thoroughly before I swallow it. I'm just like, holy cow, I can even see how we're still so unconsciously trying to feed or fill up on something, instead of allowing ourselves to experience what is in the moment, from even our food to the conversation that we're in, to allowing ourselves to feel our feelings. All of this is just a whole nother level of, can I sit and enjoy, can I sit and be with it at this level, and can I actually allow my system to like have the nutrients that it's required to have, versus just sabotaging ourselves. So that's like a whole nother layer I wanted to share with you.
I totally will integrate that starting now.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'll be like, wow, you'll see a whole other levels of unconscious eating. Not just like, oh, I'm wanting to reach for a bag of chips, but also it's like, oh, why am I speeding up right now? Because
I'm the same way. For me to sit down and eat, like I'm typically just, let's go. Yeah. So I will make it a point to change my habit and see what my experience is, and document it and make sure. So there's been a couple of questions about your cryogenic tonsil treatment, because I too also have that challenge being able to breathe at both nostrils at one time. And sometimes I feel like I have drainage still in my ear, like just with how I feel when I'm eating and chewing. Yeah. So I'm definitely interested in this too as well, to see what your experience was.
Yeah, so that is phenomenal. So I heard about this again as I started diving into super genes and all this activation, and found out about this doctor in Germany. He's the only one in the world that does this, that he cryogenically freezes your tonsils. And it's like, so, and 20 years ago, he discovered, and actually that it's a cure for what we label as ADHD, which is just a label anyways, it's a creation. Yeah, it's like kids who couldn't focus or had sleeping issues, that literally cryogenically freezing their tonsils, because what it does is it instantly cuts out the space in the hole for germs. Because your tonsils is where all the germs get held. For like the moment you take something on, it's in your tonsils, and everything you've ever experienced is actually in your tonsils. So,
you know what's interesting?
What?
Your tonsils, specifically, like the lymphatic buildup, is the belief system of, I can't, this is too hard.
Yep.
So that's where I choose to make this fun and easy comes in. It's really amazing to see the correlation between the emotional components and your body and what the consciousness attachments are to that, and then understanding the upgrades and being able to recognize them and shift them is really where the magic happens.
Right when you do it, it's like the lymphatic system opens up. All of these systems are now open because they've been shut down and closed by all this stuff. Again, from even the way that we've been taught, the conscious understanding around that, the emotional connections to the body, to, you know, our conformity that has led us to have this experience. Like, so even if you heard me talk about it, it's like breathing in the past, it was like, yeah, I breathe in and it feels like it's like, you know, and it's got to come down through your lungs. Well, the moment, so you actually have 6 tonsils. I actually got mine removed when I was 12. But even those main ones can grow back in their stumps that are still holding. It's where germs and disease actually exist and is held in your body. So there's all these studies of like some people like incurable diseases and couldn't, you know, like couldn't even walk up the stairs and all sorts of things, and they got their tonsils frozen a couple times to knock it out. Totally cured. And I was just very curious. So a really good friend of mine, he's a famous YouTube you know, star that has, you know, he's definitely done like going through the growth of consciousness, and he had told me about this guy. And so as I researched it and understood it, I was like, okay, cool. First off, like it's allowing you to close off any of these germs still existing, or being able to, you know, disconnect your lymphatic system and all these other systems. So again, when I tell people, I'm like, yeah, you know, I got my tonsils cryogenically frozen, they're like, what? What the fuck? Yeah, that's Marci. You know, it's like, I'm always like, what's the next thing I get to understand and open up my genius and open up who I am and more of my remembrance and understanding. So when he does, there's actually 6. When he did the ones in my throat, literally right away, I felt my ears go, like I literally could just, all of a sudden everything opened up. It's like, and I didn't even know that I normally existed feeling like this. It's like if you cover your ears right now and you feel like you're wearing headphones, all of a sudden you take those off, and that's what I felt like. And I'm like, this was what I didn't know that this was normal. You know, this is just what we live in. We live in this place where like we're actually blocked.
Big fat yes on that too, for me to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to come to Domineer, I'm going to be there all summer. I'm going to be in Europe. I'm going to take Sky, and Anna, we're going to have 2 groups get to go through all these things with us all over Europe for 2 weeks. You know, if you get to come there, then I would definitely recommend. I went to Germany first, saw this guy, had my tonsils cryogenically frozen, and again, so my ears opened up, and then when he did the ones up my nose, literally it was like, all of a sudden everything just opened, and it's like now I breathe, and it's like it goes straight up through my pineal gland and straight up through my crown chakra, and I'm like, so right when he did it, I was like, I gotta lay down, and and it took me like a day to acclimate to just operate. And I don't think that that's what I'm still integrating. I think that was like, it's about a day of like, okay. And then all the stuff that I did on top of that in Domineer and all over Italy and France, and all the DNA activation and the selfic healing, and, you know, I had got my DNA activation key code open and all these things. It was just like, I've come back and I'm still like, I'll have these moments. I was on that video, I was telling you how I went to like a earth element store, and the guy that owns it was a psychic, and he's like, I can literally just see all these sacred geometry symbols coming down into your body right now, and your body's doing this, and like my aura was doing this, and I was standing there going, it was the day I felt decent. I like went out with Gavin, I'm like, yeah, my brain right now is feeling like, and I'm still having moments where I'm still like, that's why Anna and I are doing another activation process tonight, because I still have like, my brain feels like it's doing this, and it's just expanding. It's like the wavelengths, I can feel frequencies, I can hear things. I'm like, do you hear that? And like, nobody else hears it. And I smell things, and my boys are like, what are you talking about? I'm like Superman, Superwoman, right? I'm just like, all of a sudden I can sense things at such a greater degree. I feel everything, there's no clogging. It's like, I feel everything around my head and in my space, and it's just, so I got the
Matrix.
Yeah. Oh, and this is what I'm talking about. It's like a whole nother level. Here I've been this, say what?
Let's say you are, we all are.
Yes. And in this journey I've been in for, you know, teaching people how to integrate and live and create their life of awesome, I'm also now discovering even whole new levels of what is like my multidimensional capabilities, my superhuman abilities that have always been there, that now I'm unlocking, and the DNA is actually like finding those grids to just lock in, and now I'm experiencing it at a whole nother level. So the tonsils were a part of that journey for me, and then when I finished doing everything, I came back and I did it one more time, You can do it close together up to 2 weeks apart, and it depends on the person. Like the 2 times for me, and he said based on, I mean, he literally could tell from just looking at them all these sicknesses and different things that I'd had in my life. And I had tons of sicknesses and diseases from when I was young. And he's like, oh, yep, you're blocked here. I mean, literally, and he's like, yep, now your lymphatic system's open. All these things were just opened up. So I had it done right before I flew back home too. So I actually had it done twice. Someone else, depending on their issues, might have to come back a couple times. But you can do it up to once a year even to just, you know, I guess keep it really, really clean. But, yeah.
That sounds like something I could definitely enjoy.
Yes.
Isn't it amazing how when you're on your journey, so many things just, like it's a never-ending level of expansion, at least from what I've experienced.
Yeah. Yep. Always, my friend. It's always.
Well, let's honor your time, and I have your stuff posted as far as if you're looking to get in more contact with Marci.
Yeah.
Take advantage of some of the amazing wisdom you have. I highly encourage you to do so. Go to marcilockmentoring.com.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, as always.
Well, and so, because you and I talked about this earlier, and that also, like, with all this stuff now becoming available to the masses online, it was never available before. It was only if you were in my programs, if you were applied to be in my programs, if you were, you know, in my masterminds or personally coached with me, you got it. Now, we released it, even people can have access to this online, and we're actually, I was going to do it right before I leave for Colombia, but I'll just kind of announce it now, and that I'm going to do a special for the next week while I'm gone, or while I'm gone through Colombia, that people can get it half off. So I can give you that link too, but if you go to, I'll just repeat it, marcilockmentoring.com, you get the Freedom Audios. The Freedom Audios are literally going to teach you how to have those core shifters of how you're meant to operate. If you go to locklast.com, you can get my my Locklast formula for free, which is
what the second one?
The Locklast, LOCKLAST.com. That's how you can get my Locklast formula for free. That is literally how you integrate every aspect of your life becoming awesome. It's like the formula that all my peeps start on, that they're starting to shift every aspect of their life to be awesome. And then I will send you the link. Actually think I'll send you the link, Bri, for the foundations one. If you're interested in getting on the path, like that, my starting programs that literally teaches you this stuff, then we're gonna, you know, that's now finally available for people online, not just in my programs. And we're gonna, I'm just gonna do it as a little kind of like post Marci birthday Valentine's special, because I was down and out integrating to be able to get that for half off for a little bit.
I'll send it to me and I'll post it back in our group.
Perfect. Yes, I would love to do that for you.
Awesome.
It's so good to see you. I love you so much. Yeah, I'll be hanging out with Anna in a little bit, and then headed to Colombia. And then when I get back, let's touch base so that we can see if you can come out to Europe with us. That'd be awesome.
Where are you then?
So my event, I leave on Tuesday morning. Everyone flies out on Wednesday, and I think they all fly home on the 13th, so we're like almost 2 weeks. Sky's coming over on the 11th, and he and I are out there, I think, till the 21st or 22nd. So Sky and I will come back from Colombia like the 22nd. So maybe touch base with me on the 22nd, and then let's...
So you're still talking, and where are we going?
March
22nd?
March, yeah. And I'll be back for like a week and a half, and I'm in Utah, and then we're moving into the new house. So,
where did you find that?
So in Encinitas, where I wanted to create it, it has the waterfall and pool and a whole guest area and meditation spaces outside. It's epic. So we'll come back from Utah and literally be moved in. My nanny and house manager will be doing that, which is like the best way to ever have a move in. So excited for that.
Yeah. You can find out who your true friends are. I remember moving so many times with Chris and stuff back in the day. I'm like, that's not the way to do it.
But you know what? So I have some friends that are staying here when I'm gone, because obviously I still have the nanny, house manager, but they stay at night so that, you know, they're sleeping here. And they were like, oh, you're gonna be moving in, you got to round up a bunch of guys. I'm like, are you kidding me? No, I don't live out of scarcity mentality anymore. I'll just pay for movers, and my house manager, everyone can decorate. I don't be like, hey guys, can we all get together with some trucks? Like, I was raised that way. not doing that anymore.
Investment.
Yeah. So we'll touch base then when I get back. I love you so much, and you look so cute. I love your hair. Give your family loves and hugs for me. Okay, good.
Awesome.
Have
an amazing day, y'all. Hope you got a great time, and we'll chat with you soon.
Love you.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, peeps, those of you that are still watching me on here, that was fun. So I guess you can check either Brian, if you didn't hear any of the conversation because it was through my computer, you can check Brian's his link for his Be Live TV. It's Brian Johnson that I actually tagged him in this. And also, just to reiterate what I was talking to him about, and then I will post down here also that link to the foundation. So my foundations program is my core key program that everyone has to start with for my $1 million clients, etc. Learning literally how to bring all these operating systems together. We just barely allowed that to go public to people that weren't just in my programs, you know, my masterminds, etc. at the beginning of the year. And I had so many people ask like, oh, I missed that. Where we actually allowed it to be half off. So I will do, decided we're gonna do that one more time. So I will post that down here that you guys can actually, if you're someone who's really wanting to get that understanding and integrate it and implement it into your life, then it'll be able to be something that you can jump on and get half off. Well, there's an opportunity to have that. So I'm gonna head off because I got a call that I get to jump on, and then maybe Anna and I will be jumping on live to be able to share a couple things when we're together today. So I love you guys. Have the most epic, amazing, wonderful day. And remember, the power of choice is yours, so choose your best life. Love you.